Hey guys, welcome to Grammar Week, which I am sure when the first words that come out of my mouth have to do with the word grammar, you're really excited about that. Don't shut the video off. We have to keep going through this. You see this up here, and hopefully by now this is just second nature to you. You're really getting this. You're understanding how all this is fitting in, and you understand how the principles shape a procedure or a method, and how that both the grammar and the context, which the grammatical contextual method that we're promoting, you understand how that those are being shaped by the principles that we have taught. And so, again, the two parts of that being grammar and context, this week we're focusing on the grammar. And again, I realize that's not an exciting topic, and I want to make sure that I explain what I mean by grammar, because grammar is just a simple way of explaining the fact that the Bible was written with words that have meaning and were put together in such a way to communicate that meaning. So if we're going to study the Bible that is written, we're bound to come and understand the language in which it was written and the way in which it was written to communicate that meaning. Now obviously we have another barrier in there in the fact that we're not looking at the original languages, but we're reading it in our own language. And so what we want to do is to be able to understand how it's translated and how it was written in such a way that we can draw meaning out of our own English Bibles, but then also to prepare us to realize that we can, through the resources available to us, work back to the original languages and have some confidence that when we say that the Scripture says this, that it's consistent with how it was written in the original language. If you're here on the EBC campus and taking this class with me, sitting in the classroom, I make constant references to my shameless plugs to get people to take the languages, Hebrew and Greek. I wish it was required of all Christians. Wish God had included that in there. But obviously, He chose not to. And we are, in all seriousness, very blessed to have English Bibles in the way that we do in our own language, to be able to read it and study it. And so what I try to do in this class is to show the importance of trying to get back as close to the original language as possible, but to be able to equip you by using the resources available in English to try to work that direction. So when we talk about grammar, we're just talking about a fancy way of referring to the fact that we need to study it with the language and because it's written, and try to see how it's all fit together to understand meaning. And I want to encourage you, because as we work through this, as you work through the notes, as you go through the readings, and as I give you both your class assignment and some of the discussion questions you'll go over, many of us probably slept through the portions of our elementary education where we had to learn grammar. I can remember when my daughter, my oldest, was in the first grade, and we were homeschooling her at the time, and the book that I was looking through that she was going through, she was learning nouns, verbs, prepositions, and I looked at her and I said, I teach this in Bible college. And sometimes that's kind of discouraging. Just a couple days ago, I was looking through my third graders' state requirements, and it's so grammar oriented, and I remember thinking that if we would have paid attention back in elementary school, reading our Bibles consistent with what I'm teaching here would be a lot easier. But I was the same way. I had to go through a process. My second year of seminary, I went to seminary in Texas for a year. Actually took a year of Hebrew and did great in it, but struggled with a lot of the grammar because I was very unfamiliar with it. Came out here to Southern California, took my second year of seminary over the summer in a 7-week Greek course. Did great. It's one whole year in just a few weeks. Did great in Greek. Still struggled with the grammatical side. Go into seminary, and one of the things that they have you do is they have you take an English proficiency exam, and I failed it. So I've taken a year of Hebrew and a year of Greek, and I failed an English proficiency exam. That's how unfamiliar I was with my own language. And one of the things is I was taking second year Greek called Greek exegesis, taking Greek exegesis simultaneous to a required class because I had failed the English proficiency exam, taking a English class that they call it English refresher, really revolutionized the way I go about studying the Bible. Because all of a sudden now when they're throwing around terms like participles and infinitives and dependent clauses versus independent clauses and all of these different words that I was learning in the original languages but didn't really know how, not only what they were but how they worked together, all of a sudden my study of the Bible became even more dynamic than it already was, because I was able to read it in my own language and start to see how it all fits together. And so that's our goal here, because as we said, we believe that God has made Himself known through various authors in various contexts over time in a language. We haven't been translated into ours. We believe that these principles then demand that you go in and study the language, the words that were actually written down in the context in which they were written. Since we're studying in an English Bible, one of the things that we feel like we need to do is at least give you kind of a big picture overview of the language in which you and I are studying. So if you are watching this video and you feel like you have a pretty good grasp of the English language and that you understand how it all fits together, you weren't like me and you slept through some of those times, didn't pay attention, didn't think it would be relevant to the rest of your life, and you actually paid attention, then you're probably pretty good to some of the stuff that you're going to have to read. If you were like me and you did not pay attention, then some of this stuff might be kind of a struggle. Understand that in this course, we can't give you everything that you need for English grammar. I just want you to see the importance of it. I want you to see why we're doing it, how it grows out of these principles, and maybe give you a little bit of a shove downstream a little bit to start realizing how important it is, and maybe yourself starting to really study the Bible more from an English grammar perspective. And so what I want to do in this next video is just take a little bit of time to show you the practical value of how all that works together. Make sure that you have worked through the class notes. Make sure that you've read the required chapters for this week, and make sure that you're thinking through, because you'll read about the 8 parts of speech in English. You'll read about verbal phrases. You'll read about things like clauses versus phrases versus sentences versus paragraphs. Don't get lost in all of the compound, complex sentences. Don't worry about all that. You're not going to necessarily be reading a Pauline epistle, say Ephesians chapter 1, and go, oh wow, I just read a compound, complex sentence. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get you to start reading the Bible grammatically. In other words, consistent with how it was written, so that we can follow the principles and let them guide us to get inside the mind of the author and read it in a way that is consistent with how God had revealed it to its original audience. And as you and I begin to do that, we will really begin to mine the depths of Scripture and really lead the meaning out of Scripture in a way that helps us understand what it is in its original context, so that we can then begin the process of application in our own context. So stay at it. Don't be discouraged. Read through that stuff, look through that stuff, and then watch these other videos that are going to come, and hopefully I can give you an example of how practical and how beneficial this is for your own personal Bible study.